pollen and being at the great race from 4:30 in the afternoon to midnight, along with some people prayers, I know, to cause the laryngitis again. But as the old line says, rain nor sleet nor snow nor laryngitis shall stop the homily. So, freshman English, Riverside High School. There's one person at this Mass now who's very nervous because my freshman English teacher is at this Mass. And I will not disclose who that person is. But, freshman English class, if I remember correctly, if we spoke during class, there was a writing assignment. And the writing assignment was a sentence. Silence is a virtue by which we restrain from the unruly member of our mortal frame. Silence is a virtue by which we restrain from the unruly member of our mortal frame. I believe if that assignment was given to you, you only needed to write the sentence 5 times. But each letter had to be in a different color that could not be repeated. My memory, I think, serves me correctly, and there's one parishioner after Mass who can tell me if my memory is correct. But I, of course, never had to do that writing assignment. I'm just speaking from my memory. Well, it stayed with me all of these years. And if you think about that sentence for a moment, take the word silence out and put the word patience in. Patience is the virtue by which we restrain from the unruly member of our mortal frame. I think the sentence has a piece of wisdom. Patience is the virtue by which we restrain from the unruly member of our mortal frame. Patience is really the fruit of a life of virtue. Patience. Patience really is required in the spiritual life. Patience is required in prayer in particular. And patience is needed in order for us to abide within God's grace. And patience is really what I think is the implied theme, one of the themes of the readings this weekend. If you think for a moment, Ezekiel in the first reading is really calling Israel to patience. Just as all of these trees will take time to blossom and grow strong, so too Ezekiel is reminding the Israelite people it is going to take time for it to experience God's redemption. We hear of restoration in that reading, and Ezekiel is calling the people, be patient as you await the fullness of redemption and restoration. And Ezekiel is really calling us to see what is the tree planted high upon the mountain for us of the Christian era, but the cross of Christ. And really, Ezekiel calling the people, calling you and me to look upon that tree, upon that cross, in order to derive patience as we bring the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom here on earth together. Paul's letter to the Corinthians is another call of patience, really, as we are at home in the body, we are away from the Lord. Call of patience as we live in the home of the body, but patience as we keep our eyes fixed on our true home, the heavenly kingdom. Patience to get there. And the gospel is really a call of patience. I know very little about farming. I know very little about gardening. I am one of the few people that can kill silk flowers. So it's not a good thing. But I know enough that in the gospel, the seed gets planted. And it's a call of patience from scattering the seed many days, many nights, the call of patience as that seed grows to the plant, the tree, whatever it is to grow. And really, what is required for patience is giving up control. If you think about it for a moment, the farmer has very little control. Farmer is in control of tilling the soil, and the farmer is in control of planting the seed. But once the seed has been planted, he loses all control. It's completely up to God as to how much rain is going to fall and what the temperatures will be and how much sunlight there will be to allow all things to grow. So really, for the farmer, it's a call of patience, as the farmer does the patient work of planting and tilling, but the greater patience of allowing God to be in control of the water and the light and the temperature. Patience, to be understood, means we need to give God control. And that's very difficult, to give God control, especially in our culture where we are trained to be in control of everything ourselves. And in order for God's work to be accomplished, we need to allow God to be in control, and in that process to grow in patience. So a simple question: do you allow God to be in control of your life? It's a very important question. I remember Sister Breege McKenna. Some of you may know the name. Irish nun, was stricken with crippling arthritis in her 20s. By the time she was in her early 30s, she was literally bedridden. And as she tells the story of her life, she was on retreat, the convent, and in her prayer, as the priest directing the retreat was speaking, she screamed out, "Jesus, I know you are here." She leapt up out of her wheelchair, and from that day now, she's well into her 60s or near 70, not a trace of arthritis anywhere, complete healing. And she uses her imagination in her prayer. And she prayed one day in the chapel in the convent. And she told us this story when I was with her on retreat. She said that she was in the convent chapel in prayer, and as she was there in the chapel in prayer, she imaged in her mind, her prayer, she saw herself in the convent chapel in prayer. So she kind of looking down upon herself exactly where she was. And in her image, in her prayer, she heard the doorbell ring. So she, in this image, got up from the door, convent, chapel, went to the door, opened the door, and of course, who was on the other side but Jesus? And so she welcomed him in and began giving him a tour of the convent. And in this image, in her prayer, she said eventually they came to a door which was locked. And it said, "Private property, keep out." And Jesus said to her, "I need to see what's on the other side of this door." And she said, "No." Rather blunt, I think. She said, "No." And he said, I need to go in the other side of the door. And she strictly refused. And then Jesus said to her, as she reported to us, "If I'm going to be the Lord of your life, I need to be the Lord of your entire life. I need to go on the other side of that door." And she said it was revealed to her in her prayer that it was a false sense of her own humility that was on the other side of the door, something she needed to give over to the Lord to allow God to be in control. Do you allow God to really be in control of your life? And for many of us, we probably struggle with patience. I know I do. I would gladly go back to a rotary dial phone for the simple reason that the iPhone has caused me to become more impatient. Impatient because everyone calls me and they think that I can drop everything at a moment's notice. And impatient because the second I want someone, I expect them to drop everything when I call their iPhone. And impatience because when I can't remember something, I just go onto Google and I try to get the answer. If you really think for a moment, some of these conveniences have caused us as a whole to become less and less patient. Huh? Do you get annoyed over things? And maybe do you get annoyed at God? Sometimes we maybe get annoyed at God that He is not working on our timetable, but on His. The iPhone trains us maybe to get a little annoyed in our prayer that it's not so instant, so quick. It takes time for the seed to grow. Micromanaging is not going to help it. Being a control freak is not going to help it. And doing more things will not help accomplish anything if we do not allow God to be in control. Patience is what is needed. And if we realize patience, and we realize that God is completely in control, as we look back at life, we will be able to see seeds that were planted in us that grew to very big and strong facets of our life that we never thought imaginable. Who would have thought in freshman English, listening to that sentence, silence is a virtue by which we restrain from the unruly member of our mortal frame, that would have planted a seed in me in 1979 that would have been transformed to a line in a homily in 2018. What seeds have been planted in you, and what do you see as a result as you give God control of your life?